3,000 years before Cyrus the Great built his empire, 2,000 years before Alexander arrived, long before anyone called this land Persia, another civilization already existed here. They built magnificent cities. They developed their own writing system. They created sophisticated art and architecture that rivaled anything in the ancient world. They fought wars against Babylon and Assyria and sometimes won. They ruled for over 3,000 years, yet almost nobody knows their name today. They were the Elamites, Iran's first great civilization, the forgotten foundation upon which all of Persian history was eventually built. This is their story. The story that should have been told first. Elam occupied the territory of what is now southwestern Iran, centered around the ancient city of Susa. The name Elam appears in some of the oldest written records in human history, including the Hebrew Bible, where it is mentioned as one of the sons of Noah. The Elamites themselves called their land Hotamti, meaning land of God. Their territory stretched from the Zagros Mountains in the east to the fertile lowlands near Mesopotamia in the west. This geographical position was both a blessing and a curse. They had access to rich mountain resources and Mesopotamian trade routes, but they also shared a long, contested border with some of the most powerful civilizations in the ancient world. The heart of Elamite civilization was Susa, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in human history. Archaeological evidence shows human settlement at Susa dating back to approximately 7,000 BC, making it older than most ancient cities people have ever heard of. By 3200 BC, Susa had become a sophisticated urban center with monumental architecture, organized government, and a thriving economy. The city sat at the crossroads of mountain and lowland trade routes, making it enormously wealthy. Susa would remain an important city for thousands of years, eventually becoming a capital of the later Achaemenid Persian Empire under Darius the Great. The city that began with the Elamites outlasted every empire that came after. One of the most remarkable achievements of the Elamites was their development of writing. Proto-Elamite script, dating to approximately 3200 BC, is one of the oldest writing systems ever discovered anywhere on Earth. It appeared at roughly the same time as Sumerian cuneiform writing in nearby Mesopotamia, suggesting that writing may have developed independently or through close cultural contact between these two civilizations simultaneously. The Proto-Elamite script remains only partially deciphered today, which adds a layer of mystery to this ancient civilization. Later, the Elamites adopted and adapted cuneiform script from their Mesopotamian neighbors. The very fact that we can study them at all is because they wrote things down and those records survived. The Elamites produced art of extraordinary sophistication and beauty. Their craftsmen worked in gold, silver, bronze, and precious stones, creating objects that still stun museum visitors today. The famous kneeling bull vessel, a small bronze figure from approximately 3000 BC, demonstrates technical mastery that would be impressive in any era. Elamite pottery featured intricate geometric designs and animal motifs. Their seal carvings show mythological scenes of remarkable detail and imagination. Elamite artistic traditions influenced both their Mesopotamian neighbors and the later Persian artistic styles that emerged after them. When archaeologists excavated Susa, they found layers upon layers of artistic treasures spanning thousands of years of creative achievement. The Elamites lived next to some of the most powerful civilizations in the ancient world and frequently found themselves in conflict with them. Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria all fought wars against Elam at various points across thousands of years. The Elamites were not passive victims. They fought back with remarkable effectiveness. In approximately 2004 BC, Elamite forces destroyed the powerful city of Ur, one of the greatest urban centers in Mesopotamia, and captured its king. This was one of the most dramatic military achievements in ancient history. The Sumerians lamented this catastrophe in a famous poem called The Lamentation over the Destruction of Ur, which survives to this day. Elamite religion was complex, sophisticated, and deeply embedded in every aspect of their civilization. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, with the goddess Kirarisha and the god Inshushinak among the most important. Inshushinak was the lord of Susa and the god of the underworld, making him one of the most powerful divine figures in Elamite belief. The Elamites built massive temple towers called ziggurats, similar to those in Mesopotamia, which served as both religious centers and administrative hubs. The famous ziggurat of Chogha Zanbil, built around 1250 BC, still stands partially intact today. It is one of the best preserved ziggurats in the entire world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Neo-Elamite period, roughly 1000 to 539 BC, represented the cultural and artistic peak of Elamite civilization. During this era, Elamite art reached its most sophisticated expression. The famous rock relief at Kurangun, showing Elamite deities and worshippers carved into a mountainside, demonstrates the civilization at the height of its creative powers. Neo-Elamite craftsmen produced extraordinary bronze works, including the famous Nipirasu statue, a solid bronze queen that weighs over 1,700 kilograms and represents one of the greatest ancient bronze castings ever discovered anywhere. This period also saw continued military conflicts with Assyria, including devastating Assyrian attacks on Susa that nearly destroyed the civilization entirely. The relationship between Elam and Assyria was one of the defining conflicts of the ancient Near East. They fought each other repeatedly across centuries. The Elamites often supported Babylonian resistance against Assyrian expansion, making them a crucial counterweight to Assyrian power. In 647 BC, the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal launched a devastating campaign against Elam following years of conflict. He systematically destroyed Elamite cities, desecrated their temples, and carried away their treasures. Susa was sacked and looted. The Assyrian king boasted in his own records that he had destroyed Elam so completely that even its dust was scattered to the winds. Yet Elam survived even this catastrophe, a testament to the civilization's deep resilience. Around 539 BC, the Elamite civilization as an independent political entity effectively came to an end when Cyrus the Great incorporated their territory into the Achaemenid Persian Empire. But this wasn't a sudden dramatic collapse. It was more of a gradual absorption. The Assyrian attacks of 647 BC had severely weakened Elamite political structures. Internal divisions followed. When Cyrus arrived, he didn't need to fight a major war. Elam simply became part of Persia relatively peacefully. But here is the fascinating mystery. Elamite culture, language, and traditions didn't disappear. They survived within the Persian Empire. The Elamite contribution to later Persian civilization was far more significant than most historians acknowledge. The Achaemenid administrative system, which allowed the Persian Empire to govern 50 million people across 3 continents, was built on Elamite foundations. Elamite scribes trained Persian administrators. Elamite accounting and record-keeping systems were adopted by Persian bureaucracy. Elamite artistic motifs appeared in Persian royal art and architecture. The famous Persepolis tablets, which tell us so much about the Persian Empire's daily operations, were actually written primarily in Elamite language by Elamite-trained scribes. Without the Elamites, the Persian administrative miracle that Cyrus and Darius built would simply not have been possible. Much of what we know about the Elamites comes from archaeological excavations at Susa, which began in the 1880s under French archaeologists. The excavations revealed an extraordinary wealth of artifacts spanning thousands of years of occupation. Among the most dramatic discoveries was the famous Law Code of Hammurabi, the Babylonian legal code, which was found at Susa rather than in Babylon. The Elamites had apparently captured it as war trophy. Other discoveries included the Nipirasu bronze statue, thousands of clay tablets, spectacular jewelry, and architectural remains. Excavations continue today and regularly produce new discoveries. Despite over a century of archaeological work, much of Elamite history remains unknown, waiting to be uncovered beneath Iranian soil. Perhaps the most spectacular surviving monument of Elamite civilization is the Chogha Zanbil ziggurat, located about 30 kilometers southeast of Susa in modern Iran. Built around 1250 BC by the Elamite king Untashnaparisha, it was dedicated to the god Inshushinak. Originally standing about 52 meters high with 5 stories, it was one of the largest structures in the ancient world. Today it survives to about 25 meters, still an extraordinarily impressive site rising from the flat Iranian plain. UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site in 1979. Visiting Chogha Zanbil today is one of the most moving archaeological experiences in Iran. A tangible connection to a civilization that existed over 3,000 years ago. The Elamites matter for reasons that go far beyond their own civilization. They represent the hidden foundation of everything we associate with Persian and Iranian history. When we admire the Achaemenid Persian Empire, we are partly admiring the administrative and cultural systems that the Elamites developed first. When we see Persian art at Persepolis, we are partly seeing artistic traditions that Elamite craftsmen established centuries earlier. When we read about Persian bureaucratic efficiency, we are partly reading about systems Elamite scribes created and refined. Iran has a much deeper history than most people realize, and the Elamites are where that depth begins. 3,000 years before Cyrus, 3,000 years of civilization that deserves to be remembered. The Elamites built cities when most of Europe was still in the Stone Age. They wrote when most of the world had no writing. They created art that still moves us 3,000 years later. They fought the greatest empires of the ancient world and sometimes won. They provided the administrative and cultural foundations that made the later Persian Empire possible. And then history largely forgot them. But they are still here, in the ruins of Susa, in the ziggurat at Chogha Zanbil, in the administrative systems of the Persian Empire, in the soil of Iran itself. The forgotten first civilization. The story that started everything. This is Historiopedia.